The bridge that I want to start with to connect us from the inner to the outer is to give you the reminder that as HSPs, we possess very unique traits and attributes and strengths that are of deep value to those who are not highly sensitive. What I'll add to that is as HSPs who are engaged in in-depth comprehensive leadership training, such as each of you are, we possess unique traits and attributes and strengths to other HSPs who are not engaged in such in-depth comprehensive training. So literally, I'm going to claim 9.5 times out of 10, you are bringing more to the table, more to a selling conversation than someone who's not highly sensitive or someone who's highly sensitive and untrained, which is what equips you to be in the driver's seat. I emphasize that because so many HSPs, when entering into the selling conversation, either A, discount their traits and attributes and strengths, because isn't everyone this intuitive? Does it really make a difference that I have the ability to deeply listen? Or you forget about it because you haven't been engaging in a core practice. And so it's like all the training goes out the window and we're back into shadows and coping. But engaging in that daily core practice puts you in the driver's seat and equips you with a natural set traits, attributes, and strengths that are of extreme value to any other person that you are connecting with. Now, that said, that's about relationships. For us as HSPs, selling is always about relationships because we are excellent at relating. We are excellent at relating deeply, which when it comes to having a one-on-one selling conversation with another person about creating a change, about creating an improvement of some sort, this is where we excel. When we're claiming those traits, working from those attributes, sharing our strengths. You have something that whoever it is that you're talking to wants and needs. That said, we're going to focus in on those core elements and core components of a selling conversation. Now, I'm not going to go in depth to the way that I teach the P2P process, which is the frame for these core elements. One, because you have access to that entire process in depth in your online learning center. And two, because it is up for adaptation. So I'm highlighting the core elements because there's a difference between avoidance and adaptation. Avoidance is either I'm not aware of what the elements are that create a successful selling conversation, and so I'm just going to wing it. Or avoidance is I am aware of the elements that make a successful selling conversation, but I don't want to, so I'm just going to wing it. Or avoidance is, I do know these successful elements, I understand what to do, and I haven't been utilizing a core practice, so I'm totally panicking in the moment, and so then I'm just winging it. All of that is not adaptation. Adaptation is, I'm very aware of the core elements that make a successful selling conversation. I understand why they make a successful selling conversation. And I know my audience and or situation, AKA ideal client, so well that I recognize that tweaking this part of the elements or adjusting those parts of the elements will really make a difference in fine-tuning and honing the successful results that I receive. That's the difference between avoidance and adaptation. Avoidance is driven by fear, resistance, one's own lack of commitment to consistency, and adaptation is fueled by information, education, experience, practice, and assessment. Back to good enough plus willingness to improve. So that said, here are the key elements that you want to include in your selling success system. You want to have an official start to the conversation that addresses why you are here. Now, the way that I teach that is intentions. I share my intention, you share your intention. It doesn't have to be in the form of intentions, but you do want something at the beginning of the conversation that directly languages why we are here. So what that does is it takes away trying to sell on the fly, such as getting a phone call kind of out of the blue in that situation is one of two options. The first option is, I would love to have that conversation with you. What would really work best is if we schedule a specific time for us to be able to really focus so I can hear more about what it is that you're looking for, and we can see if the work that I do makes sense for you. We'll probably need about 45 to 60 minutes. Would setting up that specific time work for you? Okay, great. Let's go ahead and do that now. Or, yes, I'd be so happy to talk to you about that. Thank you so much for calling. I typically go through a very thorough process just to ensure that we are a match. That's going to take about 45 minutes to 60 minutes. I have that amount of time right now. I'm happy to do that with you. Do you have that amount of time right now? And then you set the intent for that time. Okay, great. Fantastic. So I really like to get these conversations started by just really clearly each of us taking a moment to communicate why we're here. And for you, you want to always have some version of that same intention or a way that you set the frame and start the conversation. And in your expression is always language around to see if it makes sense for us to work together and take the next steps towards investment if we determine there's a match. What you don't want to do is to go into the conversation from your shadows. I'm here to be your HSP sponge and absorber without any clear communication that we are here to get clear if there's a match, and if there is, there's an investment. From there, next key element is what I refer to as activating the gap. This is the portion of the conversation where you have to hear more about what's not working for the person you're talking to. What are they currently missing, lacking, needing more support with? And you want to ensure that you're asking enough curiously generated questions to ensure that you are not making assumptions. Next key element is to find out more of what they're looking for. This is what I refer to as activating the vision. And again, asking enough curiously driven questions to ensure that you're not making any assumptions. And that is key, especially when it comes to the vision coming off of having just activated the gap. It can be very easy to fall into the trap of, oh, well, I understand what this person is having difficulty with, so of course I know what the solution is. Do not assume. Find out more. Next key element is to edify your experience. Best shared through storytelling. And stories really just either you have a personal experience that relates to what your prospect has just shared with you, or you've served and supported someone else who has a similar experience. However, if what doesn't work for those that you're connecting with regarding not having a budget, it can be so helpful and valuable to have stories prepped and prepared of others who also didn't have a budget, but then found a creative solution. Next key element is to ask, would you like to take next steps together? Now, for the way that I teach HSE selling success system, that leads us to the bridge that then leads us to call number 2. So the next steps that you're asking, like, would you like to take next steps? Is like, great, okay, fantastic. Then here's what I recommend. I'm gonna share an assignment with you. We're gonna schedule a second call, and then we'll reconnect and go forward from there. That 2-part process doesn't work for everyone. If that doesn't work for you, then your next steps are about what's needed for your prospect to get started with you. And those are the key components, key elements within any successful selling conversation. If you remove any one of those, you're making it more challenging and more difficult for yourself. If you're not setting intentions, clearly communicating why we're here, you're setting yourself up to basically probably give your services away, right? To be the absorber, to start to counsel, to start to coach, to be an ear for, all the problems that producer has, or any other form of getting off course. If you're not finding out deeply what's not working for the person, then you're setting yourself up to just work on assumptions, and you're decreasing the depth of connection. Same for the vision. If you're not edifying your experience, then you are selling yourself short. Again, working off of assumptions. And if you're not storytelling, then you're bypassing the ancient, oldest form of communication. And you're trying to reinvent a wheel that doesn't need to be reinvented. And if you're not asking about next steps, then you are setting yourself up for a continuous output of energy and time without securing the possibility for a return on that energy and time. If they say, no, I'm not interested in hearing about next steps, then you have the opportunity to ask why, from a place of curiosity. Oh, that's so interesting to me. We just really made this connection where you shared with me about gap, vision, vision, vision. Based on what you shared with me, this is absolutely something I know that I can support you with. I'd love to just hear a little bit more about why next steps don't feel helpful for you right now. That will either A, clear up any miscommunication that may have happened along the way, B, give you more information about this person that they might not have shared, so that you then have the opportunity to address it, or C, confirm, yeah, this person's right. We're not meant to go to next steps. We can just save ourselves time and energy. So again, these are the key components and key elements. If you're missing one or avoiding one or more, you're making it more difficult and challenging for yourself. Now, before we look at the pre-step, let's take one deeper look at the ask about next steps. Because what's valuable to remember is that when you are truly effectively utilizing a structure, a selling system that includes these components, you are being informed as a royal advisor of whether this prospect is an ideal client, is an ideal match. And sometimes they're not. So you can get to the point of having heard more about their gap and more about their vision, and sharing your edification through stories, checking in with them, asking what they're receiving. And at that point, you're just like, this does not make sense. So if you're very clear that this is not an ideal client, then you don't ask about next steps. You stay in the driver's seat and you give them an alternate resource. And what that sounds like is, I'm so glad we had this opportunity to connect. Based on, what you shared with me, I sense that actually my work and the way that I do it is not going to be the best fit for you. So here's what I recommend as a resource. You can get in touch with this flute player. I don't play the flute. Go check out this book. This is a website that I recommend. Actually, this is a practitioner who I think will be a better fit for you. Remembering this supports you again with being in that leadership role. You are in the conversation to determine if the work that you do will truly be of benefit to this person. By giving yourself the reminder that if not, you send them to another resource, takes you out of that backseat driver and out of the temptation of our HSP shadow tendency of I'll just be whatever it is that you need me to be. Take a breath in and let it out.